Hey guys, it's Adrian. I got a couple exercises I've been meaning to show for a while now. I always swore I'd never name an exercise because it just seems egomaniacal, but when you start having 18 consonant words for an exercise, you just change the name on it. So I'm going to show you the Crowe Plank and the dead crow. So basically I'm working on a plank variation and I'm working on a dead bug variation. Two static holds or isometric holds meant for the core, but I just didn't like them and I needed an improvement because I think too much time under tension actually creates the real issue. So I'm trying to find a way to stop us in less than a minute. And you're going to find that both of these use a band variation. So just for one thing first about band variations. I've got some holes on the wall, some rings on the wall set up. When you go to wrap a band around, and I would always use covered tubing, not naked tubing. When I go to run a band around something, whether it's a cable stack, a squat rack, it doesn't matter what it is, a smart person would take a carabiner once they've wrapped it around and just kind of lock it onto the band, just so that if I ever let this go, it's not going to whip around and whack me in the face. That's just me being super conscious about being safe with that kind of stuff. So when it comes to the Crowe Plank, depending on how good you are at the plank, or with the dead bug, by all means use more band tension to get yourself to be finished off within 30 seconds. I think it's a better way to go. But let me show you the big problems with the basic plank. Now the world record is something like an hour and 20 minutes in the plank. So like, what are we really trying to accomplish? And I think the RKC plank really did try to fix a couple things, but I needed to add something else to it to make sure that, you know, if I'm in a group and there's 5 people doing RKC plank, how do I know that each person is really working it extra hard? And I don't necessarily like the slide. So I'm going to show you the RKC plank or a basic plank first. So basic plank, I think the biggest cue I want to work on is I want my nose either over my thumb or over my wrist. So I'm going to set that up first as far as that goes. Ideally, when I set up the plank, I need to get my tailbone, shoulders, and head about the same position. And then I find people that don't understand how to use their core tend to have a pelvis tucked to the anterior, so my tailbone sticking out. There's a big arch in my lower back. The first thing I want to do is tuck my tailbone or flatten my lower back. Right off the bat, that gets my six-pack muscle to work extra hard, which is a good thing. Now again, I don't want to be back here. I don't want to be butt too high in the air. My butt and my shoulders head about the same position, and my nose is over my thumbs and my wrists. Now the RKC plank, it was a good fix because they were trying to drive the elbows to the feet and the feet to the elbows while performing that pelvis tuck, except, you know, how do I know that my client's working extra hard unless I see them vibrating extra crazy? So I decided that I'm still going to work on what the RKC plank was doing, which is the clamp down, but I'm going to make it a little bit easier for me visually as the coach and for the client to get good feedback on feeling their abs by adding a band. And I looked everywhere, I never saw anywhere else, so I'm going to name the exercise the Crowe Plank. So I'm going to take a band, usually a fairly strong band, doesn't have to be. Again, nothing changes about my setup. I'm going to put the hands or elbows down. The band is not digging into the ground, it's off the ground. Toe, toe, I get my nose over my wrist or my thumb. Try to set up my body so that my head, shoulders, lower back is roughly about the same height. Remember, I don't want that arch on my back over my pelvis tuck. I'm going to hold on for dear life with that band tension. Now, the beauty of a band is not hard enough, I go further back. Try to make a double chin. Keep the band tight in the grip. If your abs aren't vibrating, you're not pelvis tucking hard enough, and you're not squeezing onto that band. Give it a try. I think you're going to feel a lot more in the abs right off the get-go, and it should slow down the amount of time that you're holding a basic plank. So again, I try to keep it to a minute or less. I try to use enough band tension that makes me struggle. Now, let's go to a dead bug. I think a dead bug is just a face-up version of the plank, really. Now, with a dead bug, I'm going to give you the best cueing or the best setup from the get-go. Now, when I just lay here and I kind of chill out, I've got a decent arch on my back. Okay, especially for us fitness people that have lordosis, you're going to find you really need to work on this piece. So before I do anything, I'm going to crush my lower back into the ground. I'm going to dig into my lower back into the ground as much as I can. Now what I'm doing there is technically I'm taking the sternum and the pubic bone, which is where rectus abdominis attaches, and I'm just closing that area. So I'm just flexing the six-pack muscle as is. So I'm just pushing it into the ground as much as possible. Before I do anything, I'm going to bring myself into tabletop. So I've got my knee over my hip. If that's too hard, you find the arch being built in. I'm going to bring the knees in a little Now, dead bug is just the completion of the crunch. Whether my hands are here, which makes it easier, or my hands are here, which makes it harder, my hands are back here, it doesn't matter. Shoulder blades stay off the ground. Never, ever, ever is there an arch in my back. The abs are engaged, I'm crushing my lower back into the ground as much as possible, I'm going to hold that. The only thing I see going wrong is this. Relax the neck, tongue to the roof of the mouth is the best you can do. If you have to, you can hold the hands. Now again, I was able to get people up to the point where they can work at a minute for dead bug. Now we could do displacement of the arms or abduction of the arms or the legs, but if I'm going to do this for less time and trying to keep it under a minute, I really like the band, so I'm going to call this the dead crow instead of a dead bug. Now I'm going to take a band, okay? I'm going to lay down. This band has to be a lot lighter than the Crowe Plank does. So I'm going to lay down. I might shuffle down quite a bit, okay? Nothing changes about my dead bug sit up. I crush my lower back into the ground, bring my feet up, make sure that my abs stay down, and I'm going to crunch as much as possible. I can even hold the head if I want to. This extra little bit of tension goes right to the rectus abdominis, as long as I'm crushing that lower back. Now I can still abduct the legs if I want to, could abduct one arm, could abduct the other to make it harder. The point is, when I add a band to it, because the tension is now vertical, see, the problem with the plank is gravity is playing down on me this way. In the dead bug, gravity is wanting to do this to me. So it's really only in the dead bug that the rectus abdominis is going to fire very well. When I put the band on it, that band is from my head, it's pulling up this way. Or in the plank, it's pulling up vertically to the body, which is the way the rectus abdominis works. So try the bands on dead bug or on the plank. I just happen to call it the dead crow or the Crowe Plank. Let me know what you think. Don't be afraid to go heavy on the band and try to keep it at 30 seconds or more, but no more than a minute, otherwise it's too easy. Give it a try, let me know. Thanks.